Welcome to the DEI Effect. I'm your host, Travis Brown, and we are back with Eddie Gill talking about success, business, life, and right now, like, what is DEI? So what's DEI in your world?
Yeah, I think so. With our firm on the council there, just trying to be able to create some awareness, some education, some understanding of what we should be trying to do as a community and that kind of thing. But what it is to me is being able to first provide some education and understanding of people who've had different life experiences than you, right? Regardless of the background. Those types of things. And I think that's the biggest piece to that space is, first of all, educating yourself on everyone's experience. I shouldn't say everyone, but people other different than you.
Yeah.
Right, being able to understand their different life experiences and how it may impact how they move and how they operate and how they try to navigate this world, I think is a huge thing. And then once you understand that and have a better education of what's going on, now we have more empathy of things that are just flat out wrong, right? So I think that's, and then once we are educated, have understanding of it, now we can do some different things to support, different cultures, different upbringings, different backgrounds, and those types of things.
Going back, not only to not just your playing days, but did you have a love for NBA? Obviously, you played in the NBA. Now you call games, so you're still tied to that. I feel like the NBA, was out in front, like being unapologetically on the forefront of having that education experience. How do you feel about what the NBA did, and are they still doing enough now?
I think, first and foremost, I have a bias, but I also think it's founded, right? I think they do an excellent job of getting out in front of some of these different issues and just being able to say, hey, we're going to support this cause because it's the right thing to do. Not to mention, 80% of our products is being affected by some of these issues out here. So I think they've done a really good job of getting out in front of those things. I think they continue to do some of those things. Just this past during the midterms, they decided that we're going to have any games on that particular day, so it give everybody an opportunity to go out and vote and exercise their right to vote, and encouraged the players to do that, and encouraged not only the players but the overall community. A lot of arenas in the cities opened up their arenas as a polling station there. So I see them continuing to do things and continue to be kind of at the forefront of some of these different initiatives.
I think at DEI, one of the things that's still popping out to me is that we're still struggling with equity. Number one, understanding it, but creating equitable opportunities. When I look at somebody like the NBA, and this is not limited to the NBA by any means, but I think it's a great illustration, because you think about if 80% of the NBA is black or brown, you still look at it and you go, but the coaching doesn't mimic that. With I think at the highest, there's probably more NBA black coaches right now, I think I saw the other day, than ever. But then you take one step further, you go the GMs, and now we got a handful. Yep. And you get into the ownership box, and outside of Michael, really it doesn't exist. How does that? And here's why I think this is important to the world, because in an environment where your population is 80%, and it still doesn't reflect that, you go to the general pop, which isn't that. Like I see where the imbalance is. So how does the NBA get this fixed as a model to the rest of the world? Yeah,
that is a great question. I think that's clearly a place where they're deficient, and a place where there's some improvement can be attained there. Just increasing that opportunity to more diverse clientele, if you will. How they go about doing it, man, it's you got to be intentional. I see all the time all these different DE&I efforts about, hey, we need X amount of employees, or X amount of X amount of women, or guess what? There's a lot of qualified people out there. Right. It's a matter of just saying, hey, I'm going to hire this person to come and be a general manager or run basketball operations, and I'm going to train them up on what this job entails. But they have the wits, they have the smarts, they have they have all the intangibles, they have the education background, whatever it may be. Because ultimately, in any of our jobs, once we get hired, we go in there with the education to do it, but then we're trained up to do that specific job, right? So I think it's just more about being intentional of of going and identifying that talent because it's there, and then hiring them and saying, hey, here's the role, go get after it, kind of deal.
In the financial services realm, I'm curious to see, because obviously I feel like there's not a lot of Black advisors, and I don't know what the percentages, are at this point in time. But in my professional world, I spent 25 years walking into a room where I'm the only or the first,
Sure.
Kind of being in those rooms. And at different pockets of my life, I'm like either, I'm trying to minimize that, or now you can lean into it a little bit differently. Like when you put on the financial advisor, suit, and you're walking into different rooms, have you had to deal with that? And if so, or if not, like how's that been for you? Because in the basketball world, different.
Yeah.
Than the professional world.
Yeah, it's completely different. In that world, I'm part of the majority, right? But what that world has taught me was how to get through adverse situations, how to get through challenges, how to mesh with different personalities, how to kind of get on the same page to achieve a common goal. But one of the biggest ones, that's your original question about being in a different situation and still trying to overcome that, that's what it's taught me, right? So the adversity piece. So when I go in there, I have no problem trying to do anything other than who I am. I go in there and embrace that and kind of lean into that. But definitely there's certain things that you have to be aware of.
Can you be, when there's this image of what professional looks like, right? Suit, tie, clean shaven, not clean shaven, the way you talk or being articulate, all those things that people put out there. Can you be yourself, like authentic self, and not just you, but anybody? Or is there a level it's like, yeah, but I still hold that percent back because I can't really show up like I need to or would want to?
Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty intentional about trying to just be who I am, right? I do understand that there's a professional demeanor that comes with the job and the role and the way you need to approach it because it's serious about what we're talking about, right? So I address it in that, but also still being my unique self has been important to me. And if someone takes issue with that, or it's not gonna be the first time someone told me no, right? I've been cut by by enough teams or coaches and things like that. So I'm not necessarily that concerned with that, and have enough self-belief that if someone says no, I'm going to bounce back, and there's plenty of yeses out there.
As a father, having kids, because you have a boy and a girl, right?
I do.
What's been your message to them around who they are? Because here in Indiana, it's still predominantly white, and the school districts and the colleges in the world, right? So what's been your message with them? Like you got to understand this, but you can still go be this.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, making sure you're thoughtful about what you're doing. And you mentioned my son and my daughter. They're two different people in terms of their personality. My son is even keeled, even killed disposition. My daughter rolls out of bed on fire. So it's always funny to how do you manage that in terms of raising the two of them together. And also try to teach them some proven life values, right? But ultimately, just trying to be thoughtful about what you're doing, but also talk about what you believe in, right? Be purposeful about what you believe in and unapologetic about what you believe in, but do it in a respectful way, to where it's not combative or it's not disrespectful. But if someone has a problem with the way you feel about what's going on in any particular situation, that's their problem. And ultimately just being thoughtful about it.
Yeah. We were talking offline. There was a heightened awareness after George Floyd, and we both were kind of like, not sure why it took that. Like that's the only situation that has ever happened, but it did. There was a spark. People got active, created more task force and more funding. I guess my last question is, one, can it last? Is there a point where we stop talking about DEI because it's in the DNA and we actually live it? What's the big wish, big ask that we hope how this transforms our world?
Yeah, it's bizarre how it took that one to kind of to get this spark going. At that time, as I mentioned to you, I was cautiously optimistic that, okay, now we're going to see some considerable change. But I was cautiously optimistic because it was to some degree trendy. for individuals, families, businesses to kind of get behind these initiatives. And now I'm seeing that diminish, right? Unfortunately, I've seen that diminish and some taper off, some promises or things that were said would happen. Those things haven't happened in some instances. But I think it's definitely got to be something that's continually talked about and cultivated. And you and I can't be the only ones talking about it, right? There's got to be more people talking about it and doing things in a purposeful manner for it to really create a real impact. I think it's something that doesn't just go away on its own. Otherwise, we just fall back to the mean. I think about 40, 50, 60 years ago, in terms of things that were going on then and the sacrifices that were made for you and I both. And then I fast forward to now. But I look back and I'm like, well, is it really that different? In certain instances,
right?
There's certain struggles that we're still having. I do think there's been improvement, but sometimes I just feel like, well, it's just the target has been moved a little bit.
I love what you said. We can't just be the only ones talking about it. We got to be about doing it.
Yep.
Hey, thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Man, I'm super excited to form this relationship with you and all the chats and conversations.
Yeah.
But for the DEI effect, it's a wrap.